Lesson 18. Fills on the four movements, moving around the drum set, study system, reading 4/4 time. Fills on the four movements. We've seen that to underline any musical moment, it is possible to hit the crash or play a fill. You've learned how to play a one-measure fill, because didactically speaking, this approach is much simpler. But this doesn't mean that a fill has this long a duration. It can be shorter or longer, depending on the musical context. To understand better how to orient yourself, to play a fill or not, to play a short one or a longer one, I advise you to repeat 3 principal points. The first point is to try and understand where you are within the musical context. For example, which musical genre you're playing. If you're playing disco music, clearly fills are not that important as having a good groove, a solid rhythm, efficient and fluid, one that makes you want to dance. If you're playing fusion, for example, you certainly will have more possibilities to play variations on the groove. The second important point is to understand how much space you have inside the tempo in order to play a fill. I'm referring to the fact that if you're playing a song where the voice has a principal role, you must not dynamically cover the moment that the singer is still saying important words. You can't play over his words simply because you feel like playing a long fill. My advice is to listen closely, also to the other instruments. If we all started to play variations at once, the music could end up as just some chaotic noise. Therefore, it's very important to respect each other and look for the right spaces for the proper variations. The third point is clearly the consequence of the underlining that you intend to make. That is, the more important your underlining, the longer the fill. Differently, when what you have to underline is of little importance, you can play a brief fill or none at all. One last piece of advice. If you must play a long fill above the voice or another instrument that has, in that moment, a principal role, for example, a theme is being played, I advise you to use the same rhythmic figure, or at least something harmonious with that of the singer or the instrumentalist. This way, you'll avoid a potentially bothersome rhythmical contrast for whomever is listening. Actually, in some cases, you could obtain an opposite effect. By using the same rhythmic figure as the other musicians, you'll be able to emphasize certain words or certain notes. Now you'll start to gain confidence with fills of different lengths, having them start not only from the first movement, like you've done until now, but also from the second, the third, and from the fourth. Example 1. Example 2. Example 3. Example 4. Let's now try to play all 4 examples one after the other. I played all fills in sixteenths. Naturally, as we've said before, besides the fill's starting point, you can and you must choose the various divisions to alternate as well as the sound. I'll play the examples described, but you have to alternate them according to your own tastes. First example. Second example. Third example. Fourth example. Moving around the drum set. Here's an exercise that's very useful for bettering your capacity to move around the entire set. You'll play at a gradual speed. Remember to keep these sticks in the classical triangle position, even when you move. Study system reading 4/4. Right now, I'll explain a study system you can apply to the readings in 4/4 time, which I think is a lot of fun. It deals with playing every reading in 3 different ways. The first way is what you've already been using, that is, reading for the snare with different dynamics and then applying little by little, as we've already seen, the ostinati A, B, C, and D. The second way consists in distributing strokes on the entire set, particularly the first movement, second movement, third movement, and the fourth movement. So in order: snare, tom 1, tom 2, and floor tom. In the third way, you will play 3 measures of a groove of your choice, and a 4th measure with a fill, applying the first measure of the reading to the fill. Then another 3 measures of groove and 1 measure of fill, this time applying the second measure of the reading. Therefore, you have some mandatory fills or obbligati. Let's now look at an example of ways 2 and 3, taking into account reading number 6. Second way. Playing the second way, you will also better your perception of the position each drum in your set occupies, because you'll be forced to look at the reading while you move from one drum to the other. In fact, it could happen that you might mistake a stroke or two, maybe hit the rim, but there's nothing to worry about. I will now play the third way, that is, playing 3 measures of groove and 1 of fill. I'll briefly show you just the first 2 lines. Third way. After you have gained confidence with this system of studying, you'll have even more fun changing the rhythm, for example, or changing the way you accompany, or the sound after every fill, or whenever you like. Here's an example, again with the first 2 lines of reading 6.